Welcome to Through It All. I've got you with Mark and Sharanda. How you doing tonight, sweetie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. It's always good to see a smile on your face.
Thank you.
We're in season 2, and we're on episode 2. And we're going to talk a little bit about balancing career, family responsibilities, what that looks like. And when I say family responsibility, it's the family that you've made. Necessarily may not even include kids at this point. It's just family responsibilities and all the things that go with that.
Right.
How you think about that for a topic?
I think it's a good topic. I think a lot of people, they're dealing with that, trying to juggle work, life, family, whatever, cats, dogs, everybody, everything included. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's the things that we say may not necessarily apply to you. There are things that have worked for us, things that we may have wanted to try and we didn't. As we look back and hindsight is 2020. You said, man, we should have thought about that. As we did a little research, as we talk to people that are in marriages, some of the things they do, you can glean from. So, this podcast isn't intended to be a be all end all. It's just a resource for folks that are doing life together and want to continue to do life better together.
Right.
It's kind of how I look at it. So let's talk about what that means, right? So balancing family, career. So we're going to talk about a little what does balance mean, right? So balance is really about finding ways to manage your professional ambitions, which is career, could be entrepreneurial ambitions, ensuring that you're maintaining a strong, healthy relationship with your loved ones. It's not necessarily a perfect 50-50.
Right.
It may not be every day, but it's about being adaptable. I always say keep it the main thing, the main thing. And what did you say when I said that before we started recording?
I said, what's the main thing?
And so the main thing to me is your marriage. That's the main thing. And everything else branches from that. So
Right. I mean, there's times, you cannot make everything 50-50, especially you have a spouse that has to work late. You might be the one, cooking the dinner, washing the clothes, or giving the kids back if you have children, those things. So sometimes it's not always being 50-50. And like you said, sometimes you have to come in and adapt in the ways that you can and not make it feel like you're alone. Sometimes it can feel like, oh God, I'm doing all this by myself. But if you have a spouse that travels from work, you're going to be doing majority of the, trying to juggle things, your career, family, or whatever.
one of the things I think about is, how do you carve out time for your loved one? I know I hear it in the workplace when we're interviewing candidates. They always ask about what does work-life balance look like? That is people ask. And what they're really asking is, how much are you demanding of me?
Right. So I can spend time with my family.
Right. And if something comes up with my family, is that something that you all lean into? You hold me accountable for? Meaning you're gonna start ticking the box like, yeah, you got one more time for little Johnny to get sick. You got one more time for him to break his third pinky toe, and you out of here. And you'll hear companies that say, hey, there was a move. I don't know if it's still going on today where you had unlimited PTO, but you never could take it because you had so much stuff to do, right. Or they made you feel bad about taking PTO, and then you have certain companies that say, listen, if it's something, don't miss events and things like that. Work with your team to ensure that you have those things. So, that's a balance at work, and then how do you balance that back at home is what we're going to talk a little bit about. So that's kind of a precursor. We can talk a little bit about how we've managed to balance, I would say, career aspirations as well as family aspirations. I'll let you start kind of when we first got married, kind of where we were with careers and stuff like that?
I think both our careers, when we first started out, they're family oriented, and they, work with us if we had to, one or the other had to leave to get our children or whatever, and we've been blessed in that area. So that's been a great thing. So when we first started out, I was at Bank of America, and when we had our oldest son, my husband was like, quit your job. And I didn't think he was serious. I was like, I went to work. The next day he came home. He was like, did you quit your job? I was like, no. He said, did you resign? I was like, no. And he was like, he wanted to resign because our older son was young at that time. When I went back to work, he was 3 months old. And we tried to look for daycare. It was nothing that made us feel comfortable. When you go into a place, you want to feel like, okay, yes, I feel comfortable leaving our child here, and neither one of us felt that way. So he was like, go resign. And then it stressed me out to the point, like when I went back to work, my job, I had a boss, how companies are always doing a reorganization or whatever. So they had reorged, and I had the boss from where.
Hades. We'll say Hades.
And so, just really just spiteful for no reason. I've always was a top performer, always did what I was supposed to do above and beyond. So she was like, tried to take my position and downgrade me to another position. And so stressed me out to the point, because I was nursing our son at that time. It stressed me out that it caused my milk to dry up. And so I cried. It really made my husband upset. So that's, he's like, resign. And, I had to let people know that God was our provider, and he sustained us, and he kept us through the whole process. So he blessed us. I was a stay-at-home mom for, I don't know, a good while.
I don't know, 12, 15 years.
12, 15 years. And I think God opened doors and just really blessed us in that area. And so it's been good. I know everyone, you can't do it. We're not saying that, but that's where we're able to have that work-life balance. And it allowed me to be able to go on field trips, with the kids, and just be flexible. And I loved every moment of it.
So I'm going to go back a little bit on what you were talking about, because, we talked about a moment, a 15-year span, but I want to dissect that a little bit, because this is where we're talking about the balancing act of family and career and things like that. And, I agree 100%. God was our provider. He saw us through, and he gave provision. He gave people in our lives that helped us, and everyone doesn't have that. But, when it happened, and when I said that, it was from a selfish place. And when I mean selfish is I didn't want anybody else watching our child. She talked about the daycares. I remember going to one, and I said it jokingly, but half-heartedly meant it. I went to one, and I actually broke down crying. She's like, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm going to have to take these people out. And I'm not advocating for violence. I'm not. But I was like, I'm going to have to take these people out if they harm my child. He can't talk. I don't know what's going to happen. It's clean. These kids are laying on the floor. I said, we're going to figure it out. If I've got to work 3 jobs, I'm going to do that. And I did that. Mm-hmm. And it was not easy. I remember having one car, and it wasn't a car that we purchased. Someone had let us hold a car, gave us a car. And, it was one car, and I was catching the bus sometime to work when she needed the car. I delivered pizzas at night. I worked at the airport part-time. But I had a peace that knowing that who had our children. I knew who had our children. And again, this is our situation. We're sharing our situation, and it may not work for you all. You may have someone that can watch them that you are comfortable with. And Sharanda said it. She said, we didn't find peace with any of those places. I know we had one person that we wanted to watch, and she had the max number. She was a home daycare, and our niece and nephew went there. Miss Carmen.
Yeah.
And if Miss Carmen could have watched Bryce, we would have been all right. I don't think I would ask you to come home, because we had a peace about her. So if you have that, by all means, wherever you find peace and wherever you do that's for you to do. And again, we're just sharing some things. But back to back to the struggling part, there were times when, she couldn't get new clothes. I had to deal with what I had, and we made sure the kids were 1st. Mm-hmm. But through that whole journey, I don't think we were in a sad place that we weren't, you had to make the sacrifice of work. I had to sacrifice time because 2 or 3 jobs requires you to be there. It wasn't a work from home back then.
Right.
So those were sacrifices we were willing to make in order to have the peace of mind where our children were at the time. And some people may not be able to do that. They may not have the capacity, may not have the compensity, they may not want to. There's plenty of people that want to pursue a career, and that's fine too, as long as that's something that you and your spouse agree on, and then you have that plan and you work that plan.
Right.
It's kind of where I look at that. We were able to, I'd say, thrive even in the least of things, because we had our joy wasn't tied up in a paycheck. Our joy wasn't tied up in material things. Our joy was tied up with just the family dynamic. And to me, that was keeping the main thing. My main thing was she could be home with our children. And her main thing was she could be home with our children. And so that's just, one of the strategies to me is that communication piece in the very beginning, whatever you're facing, whether it's no children at all and you're pursuing your careers fervently, and it pulls time away from each other. Talk about how it makes you feel. Talk about what it looks like and what you desire to look like is one of the strategies I would say is that communication, which every episode can be about communication.
Right.
But it really is.
Communication is the key to everything.
It is the key to everything. And then even when she said that, I don't, as I'm thinking about it now, there wasn't a lot of, I'm going on my career. You don't tell me to come home. She agreed. She agreed. And I think that's a couple things. She saw it from a place of earnest. It wasn't that I didn't want her to pursue her career. It was a true, genuine, I guess, a worry. And then I knew she had it. She was well able to take on that burden, because that was a burden for her, to give up her career and to focus on our family. And not everyone can do that.
Yeah. And I remember, you talk about work-life balance, like how we teamed up at home. So that's the other thing, teaming up at home, especially when they were younger. So if I cooked, he would take the kids, give them their bath, make sure they're ready for bed, or vice versa. That way that was helping us. We have to be a team. You have to be a team. That's the only way.
Yeah, me working 3 jobs didn't excuse me from not contributing when I was home. I mean, it just, because you think about it, for any parent, there's men that stay home, right? And because the wife is the main breadwinner, and that's fine. I've offered that to Sharanda. I said, hey, I would be the best stay-at-home husband you could find. I said, go out and make that money, girl. I may spend the first 4 hours on the golf course, but trust me, the house it's gonna look good. You're gonna have food here, and anytime you want to do that, I'm all for it. But whatever parent, if that's the case, right? We're just speaking on that real quick, and we'll move on to something else. Stays home, they have to have time off too, because when you leave your job, you don't have your job, and it's unfair to come home and just think that, hey, she's the one that's home or he's the one that's home and I'm off. Don't send those kids to me. I ain't got nothing to do with that. They that's one of the hardest working non-paying jobs is a stay-at-home parent. And it's not for everyone. Everyone is not built for it. Everyone doesn't want to do it. And again, those are conversations you have to have together in order to not have resentment when it comes, and then have some clarity. And it could shift. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It could shift along the way.
Yeah, we also family dinners. That's something that was important to us. We'll sit down every night as a family and eat dinner. So, that's some ways that you can make sure you're dedicating that family time together.
Even if you don't have a family and you are your own family, you know, your husband and wife, make sure, you know, that could be something you say, hey, regardless of what's going on in our schedules, let's make time for dinner. Even if it's not at the house, if you're working late, I'll meet you for dinner somewhere.
Right.
And I remember seeing this video on Instagram, and that particular family, the wife was talking to a group of ladies, and she was saying how they have a routine. You know, when he comes home, he usually comes home at X o'clock, and you know, she looks forward to him coming. I don't know if she was working at the time. I don't think it mattered, but she looked forward. She would look forward to him coming home and having that time together. And it was one particular time that he was running late, and as she was talking to her friends, she was saying, you know, as he drove up, I had to make a choice how I wanted to react. Did I want to jump down his throat for being late, or did I want to just receive him and not knowing what the situation was? You know, maybe he was the type that needed that woosah on the way home, and he didn't call, or maybe he just texted, I'm on the way, whatever that was. And so what she said is that, you know, God gave her some discernment, and God said, just greet him, just love on him. Yeah, you had to keep the dinner warmer longer, but just love on him. And through that, so happened that he had just a rough day at work, and he came in, and because she was open to her spouse, he, you know, not necessarily collapsed, but just laid his head on her shoulders and just talked about the day he had. And imagine if she would have flipped it and chose to.
It just went rah rah.
Yeah, it just went rah rah, not knowing the situation. It could have. He could have got responded differently, and it could have caused some things in their marriage. So, I think the communication through all that was the key, and then listening. You know, not necessarily asking, hey, how was your day, or is there a reason you're late, or you know, is it, you know, what's, you know, hey, what can I do for you, or anything like that. Are some of the things that help when you try to juggle career aspirations and family time.
Yeah. We also planned family trips. We did a lot of that, especially for the kids' spring break. We made sure that we took off for our jobs to make time, you know, for them. Every spring break, we might not have went out of state or wherever, but majority of the time we did, but you know, we tried to spend that time doing something with them, and not just, oh, they're on spring break, we're just gonna work. No, we had to make sure we were spending time with them as well.
Yeah, that time goes fast if there's children involved, and if there's no children involved, it goes fast too. Just as a married couple, time moves.
Yeah, if it's a married couple, take your trips. However often you want to take them, spend that time together.
That's right. I know there may be seasons, you know, maybe you're a tax professional, or maybe you're a project manager or something like that, and you have seasons where you're just slammed. You may be working 10, 12, 14-hour days, and so the time you have with your significant other shrinks a little bit. Maybe you travel, you got a high travel season, and you're not able to be there as much. I say set the stage beforehand. Hey, this is what's going on. This too shall pass. This is a 6-week window that I'm just going to be gone. I love you the same. You know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. We got less time to fuss when we get together because we ain't got but so much time together. Actively talk through those things. And then the other thing is your professional ambitions. Try not to have any jealousy of the other in their success. Pick them up in their failures. It's not the time for I told you so. It's the time, this is your life partner that you're trying to do life with and grow with and see them grow. Make sure that you're supporting them and be a resource to them in any of their endeavors. You may not have the expertise in those endeavors, but that's a great spot to learn about something new, especially if there's something that is going to ultimately benefit your family. I have a saying, I don't always want to, but I'm going to. I do things that I don't want to do.
We all do.
When someone says, do you want to do that? I'll say no, but I still will. And as long as they don't understand, the no isn't that I'm not going to do it. I'm just being truthful. No, I don't want to do it, but because I love you, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And then I'll lean into it a little bit more. But yeah, you may not want to in the beginning. And even in the entrepreneurial dreams or in the W-2 dreams or whatever it is, support your spouse. They already got enough.
100%.
They got enough coming from the outside. They got enough naysayers. They got enough I told you so's. They got enough weight on their shoulders trying to do something, even a regular job. Support them.
Support is very important. I remember when I was getting my master's in real estate school, I had to tell my family, I was like, I need y'all to back me. I need your help. Trying to work-life balance, family. It was hard.
Yeah, we didn't do a good job at first. We were used to you doing so much for us that we kind of forgot. It's kind of like when you stay in a hotel for a long time, you forget how to make up your bed. we didn't do good for you. We're sorry, baby. I know I am.
It's okay.
Yeah, you still made it through though. You succeeded in every area. But and even when you don't do right, if that person comes to you and tell, hey, we need to adjust, because it is a balancing act, and one week to the next, you got to rebalance. It is not something that's impossible, but it is not something that you can just skate through. You're going to struggle sometime. You're going to mess up.
It's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, and it's okay. You're sacrificing for the person you love.
Yeah, absolutely.
The person you're growing
family,
with.
You're sacrificing.
For your family. You talk about jobs. I remember one of the best jobs I used to have a long time ago. It was when I worked at the airport. I loved that job. And the reason I loved that job, I was a baggage handler. Like it didn't pay a lot, and you all got to benefit from it because every time I look up, y'all was on the plane somewhere. Make sure our bags get on. I'm like, wow. But the reason I liked that job is because the bags didn't say nothing to you. You put the bag on, you take the bag off. They didn't give you any problems.
I was gonna say they didn't talk back.
They didn't talk
complain.
Back. And when you left, it wasn't no email. The bags didn't come with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that job. I really did. And as you get more responsibility, I love my job today. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the company I work for. But that was a good job. That was fun. And then the benefits with it. So I don't knock the small things. I don't knock the things like that you do in order to make it through. And we did. And again, we went through some stuff. We struggled. And there was times that, we had to say no to things that we wanted to do. Friends invite us. Yeah, we can't do it. We can tell them why. We ain't got no money. And so, but we had each other. We're blessed that we never went without with food and things like that. We just didn't, we didn't have lights cut off on us, things like that. But we, if we did, we would have just had to light some candles and you do what you got to do to make it. You know what I mean? You do what you got to do to make it. And we were resolved to make it on the decisions that we set for each other and that we said was for our life. We was resolved to make it.
That's right.
And we made it through. And if, God decides that he wants to do something else, throw the story of Job on us. Hey, we got each other. I don't want that.
Yes.
I don't want that. But, it doesn't matter because, I've got the person I'm gonna do life with. To me, that is the foundation of it all. Yeah. All these different things we talk about, you can make it through if you have a desire to make it through. And if that's the biggest thing is that desire. It may not always be there because sometimes even your choices, you're going to get questioned and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But we can say through personally, we've seen it and we've seen it through others.
Yeah.
That have made it through and balancing, the balancing act of a family and career and things like that.
Yeah. So some of the ways that we made it through, we sat down and like, okay, we're going to do this. Then sometimes you have to sit down and make a plan. Like, okay, tonight, if, whoever's working late or whoever gets home first, like, hey, you cook dinner, make sure dinner's ready. Or tonight, you're going to do the laundry, wash the dishes, or whatever. So make a plan.
Yeah, even tonight, usually Sundays, you typically cook.
Yeah.
I'll help out. I'm your sous chef, and I'll do your dishes and stuff like that. And you had something to do. You had to show some houses.
Yeah.
After service today, I was like, look, let's just eat out, get food, just adjust on the fly and keep it moving. And again, that's nothing extravagant. It's nothing that no one else would do, but it is something that you have to communicate with. Because I could have easily said, nah, baby, this is Sunday. I need dinner so I can have lunch for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But you want to take stress off of the other as much as you can. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, and I do too. You take the stress off of our lives, my life, our children's life quite a bit. You know, that's really what we wanted to talk about a little bit today, is the balancing act that you have to go through, that you can make it as long as you communicate. Over communicate. And then make sure you stay connected.
Yeah.
Even through the rough times, through the tough times, stay connected. Mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah, all of it. Because you can get tired and you could not purposely forget your spouse, but sometimes, you know, we get so tired, and you just got to muster up some of that energy, you know, for the things that we all need. You know what I'm talking about? So that's important.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good. Keep going. Yeah, that's good. Yes.
Oh my gosh. But anyway.
Yeah, they say, amen. Come on. Preach.
But you know, we have to push through. Been there, done that. Been dog tired, but I know, like, we all have needs, but we just pray and ask God give us some strength to make it through.
I was about to dive into that a little bit more, because
what was you gonna say?
I mean, I need your full self. I don't need your tired self there. Then, I
but
mean,
no,
I'm
you
gonna have to work more.
I said get energy.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say tired doing it. I said muster up energy.
Oh, okay.
You gotta have energy for it.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll leave it there. Well, as always, thank you all for continuing to support the channel. Thank you for supporting us. If you don't already follow us, whatever platform you're listening to this on, you know, like, subscribe, follow. That way, when we continue to put out new content, you get notified of it. Give us some feedback. Share your thoughts on I know on all the platforms you can leave comments. Please don't troll. I want to be trolled. But leave us some comments. And then, you know, probably in the next 1 or 2 episodes, we'll have an exciting announcement on a spinoff that we're doing that's going to involve couples. And we'll give the name. Maybe next week or the week after, we'll give the name of it.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit about the lineup. It's going to be fun. We're going to have some trivia. We're going to see how well couples know each other. And we're going to change it up every week so that they can't pre-study. And yeah, we're going to know the answers when we talk to them. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll add some spice. It is not meant for clickbait. We're not trying to have people fuss on camera and go off. Now, if the camera's rolling and they get at it, so be it.
We're going to cut the cameras. We're not. No, we're not going to exploit anybody.
Not exploiting, but hey, we got to have a blooper reel.
Mm-hmm.
We'll mute if we have to.
Okay, mute.
Yeah, we'll
but
mute.
You're still recording.
Oh. Well, we'll need some consent forms that everything that you sign we get to keep. Nah, I'm not about that. You know that. So, but again, thank you for tuning in, and please share this with someone that you can could benefit from it. And then until next time, on Through It All, I've got you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Take care.